Welcome to Talking Not Ranting. My name is Allister Field.
And I'm Greg Smith.
You've landed in the middle of our current topic series, The Struggle to be a Good Manager. So let's set the stage here. Greg and I have been friends for a long time, and we actually just had a really good, friendly type of conversation. So I think we're really good today. Is that correct?
I think we were excellent today. We haven't had a chance to connect in about a week, which, now we usually talk at least a couple times a week. So it's nice to catch up.
And just to kind of catch everybody up, Greg and I have been managers for a very long time. We've been publishing this podcast, Talking Not Ranting, The Struggle to be a Good Manager, since July 5th of this year. And this, Greg, is going to be our 25th episode.
Oh, so what does that mean? Do I need to give you something in silver, or is it paper? I'm not sure.
I'm good, man.
Okay.
So during our time at the diner, and then through the development phase of this podcast, and it's actually come up quite often in the podcast, and some of the concepts in it, you've been talking and dreaming and about making a book. And I've heard some of the process and the time that we spent together. So we've had these awesome talks about the book and a lot of the content in the book. And we've referenced it throughout our podcast. And from what I understand, Greg, the time has come.
It has. And were also a inner circle pre-reader for me to give feedback along the way, and along with a number of other close contacts with regards to it. But it's pretty exciting. Yeah. If you would have told me a year ago that I would be partnering with you and doing a podcast, and we'd have 25 episodes, and that I had written a book that I'm going to publish an ebook, which has just been published, and the full book will be published in the spring. I would have told you, that's not going to happen, but it has.
It was crazy talk.
Yes, it was. But hey, there's a lot of strange and unique things been happening over the last year. So this is just another one to add to the list, I guess.
Well, it's interesting because during this COVID time, a lot of people, are working, but there's other things brewing up, and a lot of people are finding themselves in kind of that creative space. They have time on their hands. They're not commuting, a bunch of other things. And I think it's kind of been cool that I've had a seat to watch you from a certain concept, a couple of years ago, through some development, and now your book is out, and I've read it a number of months ago. You asked for some critiques and stuff, and I love to give feedback, and I thought it was fantastic. And it's kind of neat knowing that I've read the book, and we've also participated in this podcast, and just see how that book and the development of that book has influenced your participation in the podcast. So the name of the book, In Search of Safe, Brave Spaces, A Guide to Unlocking and Releasing Potential.
Yes, that's it. And, it's interesting you talk about this COVID has been kind of really challenging and for many people. And I was on a call yesterday with a bunch of folks, and they asked to describe kind of your word for this period of time. And for mine, it was, it was less a word. And you know me, I can't stay with one word. So I said a couple words, but I said, for me, it was about pivoting and growing through community. And part of this book was, I was impacted. My business really dropped, and it was tough, and I needed to refocus my energy. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And so one of those things was through spending time and reflecting around, my journey and what I have learned, and having a chance in community to actually capture those thoughts into something that I could share.
Well, that's perfect, because what we're going to do today in today's episode is we're going to talk about your book and the journey to in getting it going. So, you've kind of touched on the first topic for today. So let's talk about the genesis of this project.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It all really began actually a long time ago, but the biggest first kind of genesis of the project was in 2016. my life crashed basically. So I had a lot of things happen at once that were not great. And I'm a pretty, you know me, I'm a pretty half glass full kind of guy, positive, optimistic. Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly, very full. And part of that is good, but part of that is also I don't dive deep into the things that are sometimes historically that have been painful for me. And so during a period of about a year, my uncle collapsed in my arms and died shortly after. My best friend from age 13, watched wither away with cancer and brain cancer. And my wife got ill with a virus that no one could give us answers for. And at one point, she shared that she didn't think she could continue living. And then my job, was actually not great, and different values, and I was then told that I was no longer fit the organization. So all these things happening at once, and here my whole life had kind of tumbled, which was very tough for me. But what I discovered in that was this beautiful space within community where I finally let go and allowed myself to recover and strengthen. And that's when this idea of what I call safe, brave spaces began to bubble up. And so that's the genesis of the idea. And for me, safe, brave spaces, safe is when you feel you understand yourself, you rediscover your strengths, you believe in yourself, you trust in yourself, and you have confidence. And then brave is with that strength of being safe. Brave is really being vulnerable, being courageous, bringing your voice forward while still being open to others. And so through that process of recovery, I discovered this unique, and it wasn't unique, but it was really just that these two pieces are so critical. And when they're integrated, that you have both safe and brave together, your potential is released, your strength is released. And that began the beginning of my recovery, and really rediscovering on what I want to do and who I really am and how I best can contribute. So that's a long-winded genesis, but that's where it started. And many people say that discovery often happens during times of suffering. And as a guy who's always half full and optimistic, I didn't allow myself to let go and go into that too often. And now I'm learning that this is actually an important part of the journey.
So kind of the next piece to this is, why have you undertaken this? Because I've seen, I'm certainly not privy to all the ups and downs of this process that you've gone through to get this book out, and the time and effort and, tears and laughter and everything else that went into it. But why now?
Well, I think it's interesting, so first of all, one of the things I did discover through the journey was that in the times throughout my life, I had other dips, and it was in those dips that I discovered this continual pattern of safe, brave spaces, and it was so fulfilling for me to discover this, and really I advanced and made greater impact when this happened. And certainly, as we went into COVID, boy, a lot of people have been suffering. And so part of what I wanted to do, and there's so much great work under this whole banner, what I call safe, brave spaces. I mean, there's so much great work that's already out there. Brené Brown, you name some of the great authors that are out there doing some wonderful work. But I thought I can contribute to this. So I made a decision, and I'd done a couple speeches last year around this concept. And it really resonated with people. And people were coming up to me afterwards and saying, you know what, both your vulnerability of sharing your stories, but also some of the tools that you learned, I'm going to try those. And then people would reach out afterwards. So I thought that if now is an important time to just share my thoughts and ideas. And in the book, I do have some models and some thoughts and frameworks, but I also share others that I've used and learned. So my intention is actually through it to start a dialogue, start a conversation, and really help support a movement towards this idea. Because I believe that now more than ever, we have an opportunity to create safe, brave spaces in ourselves, in our relationships, and others. Because boy, oh boy, there's a lot of mucky stuff that is opposite of that happening right now.
I really like that. And what I like about what you just said, and I know it's on your heart, and it kind of came out in the podcast as well, is that sometimes we look at something that looks very daunting. There's a big problem or there's a situation, what could I do? And what I like about your approach is that I know that you would go through this whole process if you could just affect a positive change in one person's life. And I like that idea of pulling yourself up and going out there and doing something, not concerned about whether you're going to be doing shaving ads and stuff like that and you're going to be famous, but that even if one person comes up to you after a talk and says, listen, thank you very much, I'm kind of in this place, and some of the things that you said kind of speak to me, they resonate with me, and this is going to help me moving forward. And I know you're of that heart, and that's what I like about your story, and the things that I know about it is that you would go that mile. If you could, one or two people, it would make their lives a little better and help them in their approach as they're going through transitions or something going on in their personal life, whatever. And I think that there's a life lesson there for all of us, that you can't look at this huge problem and then say, listen, I'm not going to do anything about it unless I can affect that problem, or I can get famous or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be famous or wanting to solve some huge problem. But I really like that realistic view that you have, that, and it comes from your heart, that, if I can go out there and, I can help a couple other people that have been in the situation that I've been in, or kind of like I've been in, and they can get something out of this, then I think that's it's a life lesson. Then get up and do it. And I like that we've been talking about this for a couple of years, at different levels. And I think it's just a great thing. So I've kind of preempted the conversation, but what do you want to accomplish about this?
Well, you know what? I love that description, because that is what's on my heart. And in the book, at one point I talk about this idea of the footnotes, people who are footnotes in those famous people. And I actually love that description. We talk about whether it's Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela. Often in their autobiographies, they describe certain individuals who just were there, or maybe a couple individuals that were there at one point, that gave them the encouragement, the insight, the idea to gain the confidence, really to create the safe, brave spaces in each of those folks. So I love this idea. And so my hope is just to be a spark, maybe a footnote in somebody's journey. What I've loved even so far, as I've shared this with a couple of folks, my book, one of the things on our website, we're going to create a YouTube channel, which I've already done it, but we're gonna start creating stories, because even as I've shared the book with the early readers, so many great stories have come up, and different stories of how others have enabled them to be safe and brave. And so this whole idea of starting, and a movement's maybe too big of a word, because I actually think there's a movement already happening. I think there are many people that are actually focused on and contributing towards this idea that I've just called safe, brave spaces. But I think it's already happening. So for me, what I want to do is contribute to it, encourage it, and really support others in their individual journeys and organizational journeys, and in their relationships. So, it starts with an ebook. There's some tools that I'm giving, that I'm providing for people, things that I've collected. But more importantly, I want to create a conversation. So there's a couple of ideas that in a few weeks, we're going to launch Safe Brave Circles, which is a unique way of going through the book together in a community, trying some of the tools, building what I'm calling me profile, being me profile, which is really capturing, who I am, what I bring, what I'm passionate about, what I value, what my unique way of contributing is, what gets in my way, and what do I want to accomplish. So a simple one pager to guide people towards taking those next steps. I just this morning watched a YouTube video of Stacey Abrams, who ran for the governor. Oh my goodness. And she actually, the words, they weren't the same, but they were similar, of really defining who you are, and what you want to contribute. I read somewhere recently that the chances of us being born is 1 in 400 trillion. And it struck me that we're here for a purpose. I mean, those are big odds. So the fact that we landed here means we're supposed to impact, and we're all connected in communities. So what is that? What do I want to do? And to your point, it doesn't have to be big, and most of us don't do big stuff, but it doesn't mean we're not doing important stuff. And so part of what this is to help people discover the thing that they want to do, or the things that they want to do, and how they can contribute. So that's kind of what I'm trying to accomplish. So equipping people, sharing stories, acknowledging other people's great work that will help support people on that journey. That's my hope. So if my big picture hope is to have a whole global community on safe, brave spaces, people that are sharing their ideas, sharing their stories, and going forward. And that seems huge. But how cool would it be if a regular thing we read about are communities, individuals, organizations that are creating safe, brave spaces? I think there's the possibility is so there, and it's already happening.
And I think, Greg, you and I have been around for a long time. We've both been managers for a long time, leaders, and there's certainly a need for it. And one of the things you said when you were talking there that really resonated with me is that idea where you sit down and in a one pager, you're forced to put down on paper who you are, what you want to do, just that self-awareness exercise in itself. Because that's what we end up doing anyways. We just sometimes do it in a haphazard way. We'll have a conversation with somebody. You and I in the production meeting had one of these conversations, and it's one of those things where it's a really good exercise sometimes just to sit down and say, okay, who am I? What do I want to do? What have I accomplished? What's in my way? What makes me happy? Those types of things. I think that's such a healthy thing to do as you step out to engage in other people and other groups, and take on problems, challenges. I just really like that's part of your process. And having been an early reader of your book, it's something I really appreciated. So you have gone on this process. We talked about the genesis of it, and kind of what you want to do, why. What have you learned in the process yourself?
Well, one of the first things I learned is the power of community. So as I began to write the book, I actually joined a writing program, which was pretty awesome. And I'll find the link to it, because but if you're not local in Canada, but I think you can do it globally too. It was amazing. And what it simply did was every morning from 8:30 to 10 o'clock for a month, and I did 2 months in a row, you come together with different folks that are writing, and you talk for 10 minutes and then write for an hour and 10 minutes, I think, and then 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you would regroup. And what it allowed me to do, and I actually just sent them a note announcing my book to them, and really just thanking them for the support. It was almost a great expression of safe, brave spaces for me, because you got to share, you got to work, and more importantly, it held me accountable that every morning I was writing something. And then I would share some things, and you'd have some targets and that type of thing. And I personally need stuff that hold me accountable, to give the rhythm, and so that I can get something done. And frankly, it was very helpful for me. And I've since referred a bunch of people there, and everybody said, you know what, that the importance of community and accountability together was fantastic. So that's one thing that I would learn. The other thing personally I've learned is that I think we all on the back page of that Being Me profile, I have two things. One is a Safe Brave Spaces map where you put where I think I am now,
Mhm.
and kind of where I want to go, and then a Safe Brave plan. And what I discovered in myself was that I've always been quite strong on the safe piece of that. I've known myself. I reflect. I always create safe spaces. In all my career, people have said they've always felt that within minutes they feel open to be able to talk with me and encourage. But my brave was not always as strong. And so through the process, I've recognized that I need to evolve and strengthen my brave. And part of that is within the book, each section. So the book is divided into three big sections. Four: preparing for the journey. It starts within me, which is really about discovering safe, brave spaces in myself. It accelerates between you and me, which is about what do I need to do to create safe, brave spaces in my one-on-one relationships. And then it flourishes through we, which is around communities. And in each of those, I've really grown and discovered those. But those are the kind of the three buckets. But what I've learned that one of the things in order for me to be more brave is this whole piece of what do I need to let go of, or what gets in my way. And some of that's the self-critic, some of that's judgment, some of that is biases, all of these. And it was probably the biggest missing piece. And also one of the biggest learnings that I had is really discovering what's in my way, both in myself, but also in my relationships. And how do I just become a lot more aware of that and catch myself and really challenge those false truths that or bad behaviors, ruts that have been built up in me, that I just need to challenge myself, be brave internally, and then be brave externally. So that's the other thing. So community for sure. And this whole aspect of each of us has brave and safe. And sometimes they're a little bit more atrophied than others. And frankly, after my crash in 2016, I would say that both were low, both were depleted, and I needed to build them both back up. And so it's not I think it's like you can go down and up. And so it's a continual process. And so, my hope is in the book, there's lots of tools, there's lots of references, there's lots of resources for folks to be able to begin the journey of building safe and brave. And you might, I know lots of people that are really brave, but they probably need to lift the safe up a little bit, because it's not, and also there's a healthy brave and an unhealthy brave as well, right? So part of it is, how do we be healthier, safe and brave together?
I really like what you said there. There are a couple things I'm just going to pull out. The first thing is the community, where you've found community. And what I like about your experience and what you've shared with us today, and what I know just from hanging out with you a fair bit, is that, and what I'm learning myself, is how important those communities are. And they aren't always the communities that you think they are. And so you had this writers group. You've probably never met any of these people, and I really like that you took advantage of that and realized, kind of stuck a pin in it and went, you know what, this has been a really helpful group to me. I really appreciate this group, so much so that you've referred other people's into that type of program. And I think there's a lesson to be learned from that as well. You talk about, what is the group that, is kind of building you up and giving you a safe place to talk about things. I've seen groups of people on the GO train that just live to take the ride in together in the morning.
Mm.
And, it could be a coffee group. It could be, who knows what it is for you. And I think what I've learned from you is the question, this group of people that I'm hanging out with, I'm going to acknowledge that this is a really good group for me, and that this is a safe place where I can be brave. And I really like that from you. And I like the idea of the brave part. You and I have been, in all sorts of situations in our multiple careers. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about the importance of being brave and what that is. You kind of referenced, maybe a reckless bravery that sometimes people have, that probably isn't the healthiest thing at times. But that whole idea that you feel comfortable about being brave, about speaking up, about sharing things, information, I've never, until I kind of hung out with you and you put a word to it, I don't think I've really recognized that that was a need out there. And yet as soon as you started talking about it, I go back into my past and I go, well, yes, I felt I could be brave in this situation. I certainly didn't feel I could be brave in that situation. So that's another thing that I really liked about, what you talk about in this book and what you talk about in your real life and you talk about on the podcast as well. So those are the kind of the two things when I asked you that question in your answer that I pulled out that really I felt was really, really meaningful. So, all this book launch stuff is coming up, and we're going to put links to a bunch of stuff in the show notes for anybody, so they can just click on it and go to where you need to go. But other than the things that are going on, like planned in the next couple of weeks, what's next for you in this?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. And one last thing I want to just add, of course, this is like all our podcasts. Greg has one more thing he wants to add. So,
Really? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Surprising, eh? Surprising. Um, for me, what I love about the idea of safe, brave spaces is the simplicity of it. And I'm a pretty simple guy. I can get deep in certain things, maybe, but I like simple. And the idea of being safe, brave spaces for me is the simplicity. So as I enter into a space, a situation within myself, I can ask myself, do I need to be more safe here or more brave? As I'm meeting with someone and really listening to the situation and need to contribute to creating safe, brave spaces, I can ask myself, what is most needed here? Does this person that I'm with, is it important for me to provide more safe space, encouragement, helping them trust themselves, build it? Is it required to be more brave? Encourage them to voice their opinion. For me to have a tough conversation. So in each of those situations, it's the integration of safe and brave that really, for me, is simple and so important. So anyways, I didn't want to lose that, because that's a kind of a something that is really resonating with me, and it's simple, I think, in the what's required now in this moment, in myself and in to strengthen this relationship or this community, and both are important. Some maybe more at times than others, so something to think about. But for what's next, you know what, I just launched, so part of it is creating the conversation, beginning to collect the stories. So over the next 3 months, as I said, we're going to start something called Safe Brave Circles, which is going to be a cool opportunity for people to begin this journey together in community. We are going to launch Safe Brave Coaching, which is really an opportunity for if people want to dive deeper with someone, a certified coach that can really enable them to accelerate their journey. We're going to provide that as an opportunity for people. We're going to start a podcast, a second podcast, maybe a video cast. I'm not sure. There's probably a better term, than that, but around Safe Brave spaces, which really are around safe, brave stories. What are the stories out there of organizations that are creating safe, brave spaces, of individuals that are on the journey themselves? Because I believe it's like our conversations. Stories are powerful, because they help us evoke the stories within ourselves, and then the courage to share those stories. And it's in the exchange of stories within community that so much happens. We're encouraged, we're inspired, and we're nudged along. And so those are kind of the things right now. The website www.safebravespaces will be .com will be the kind of the portal where we'll start to build upon this stuff. But and then I'm going to be really open to the journey, because really this is a journey, and it's still on its way, and I just hope that this conversation and these communities will find a place together to move this forward. And I did want to acknowledge you also, Allister, because really, even this podcast, right? This was about how community and encouragement allowed me to be more brave. When we were first talking about this, you said, "Hey, let's do a podcast," and we said, "Oh yeah, that'd be great." And at least our families will listen to it. And now we've got quite a few people listening, but our intention is to create a safe, brave space for dialogue around being a manager and what we've learned, and being vulnerable and being honest and building our skills. But your encouragement and your passion to bring this forward, I really appreciate. That's helping me grow both my safe and brave.
Well, I think it's been awesome because I've had kind of a unique inside view of your development process in this project. And what I find interesting and kind of enjoyable is that you and I have been stuck in this, not stuck, we are in this creative bubble at the moment. We both had a little bit of time. And so there's been a number of projects going on. And kind of the central thing has been Talking Not Ranting. And I can't believe that we've done 25 episodes, that you've written a book and all this other stuff. And I just appreciate the seat that I have in this process, where you've bounced things off me. I got to read the book early, and kind of watching the journey unfold from a unique vantage point. It's been kind of, it's interesting, right? It's awesome to see somebody do something, because quite often people have a dream or an idea and it's like, oh, it's too hard. I don't have the time. I don't have the effort. I don't know how to do this. And I'm going to take a big leap of faith that you didn't know how to write a book when this started off, Greg. And look at where we are right now. You're being interviewed on, just a great podcast series, right?
That's right. Wow.
But this is, I've said it a couple of times. This is a bit of a life lesson for those of us that know you, and hopefully more will get to know you during this process. That, this started off somewhere in probably a negative place, and look at where you are right now. We're talking about all these things that are next steps, and this book, and these topics that are really important to you, and are probably definitely important to other people as well. So I just appreciate the seat I've had in this journey, and being a podcast mate of yours on this series. I can't believe we're at 25. I think when we started, we were kicking around maybe a dozen, and every time we talk, we end up getting another topic that we need to talk about. So I just appreciate the seat I have in this journey, and I'm glad that we could sit down today and talk about the exciting news and stuff that's going on with you. And now that we've figured out how I can get a copy, because I don't have a Kindle, I'm even more happy. So this is pretty friggin' awesome. And what we'll do is Greg's going to send me all the links that he wants, and that he thinks you should need, and we'll put it in the show notes, so you can just click on and get a copy of the book, and take a look at the website and all those other things. And we will certainly do that when we publish. And so final word, Greg. I love saying that.
Yeah. No, I just, I love what you said there. I think that just really summarizes it. And the one thing that I've learned is that taking that time to really rediscover who I am, what I bring, what's my unique contribution. A friend of mine once told me that the world is like the best television screen of today. And the television screens are made up of all little pixels. And when one pixel is out, the screen is less brilliant, less to its potential. And that really resonated with me. And so my hope is that this book and the podcast and other things is the opportunity for you to discover how to make your pixel shine. Because we all are here for a purpose. There's something that we're to do, and we can contribute in the circle that we're in. And so for me, all of this is about, both the book and the podcast is about really helping our pixels shine. And I don't know, I think that's kind of cool. I want this to be a beautiful picture. And right now, the picture of the world and many of our communities is a little crunchy. It's really a little blurry, and it's not anywhere near where it could be. And it does start with knowing yourself, figuring out where you want to play. It then accelerates in your inner circle or your community, finding that, as you said, the folks on the GO train or on the train or in that coffee group or that book group that can really just create that safe, brave space for you to nurture your vision, your idea, and going forward, and to fully express your pixel. So that's what I would summarize with.
That's awesome, Greg. And I'd like to thank you for being a guest on your own show. This has been fantastic. It's been fantastic to talk to you this week. So no, but
That's awesome.
but all kidding aside, appreciate the opportunity to talk about this, and we'll of course again put a bunch of links in the show notes. So I think the best way to finish this off is kind of our signature send off. Take the time with the people you work with. They are an important part of your job, your success, or your failure, and the people that you live with as well. You just don't know who those special group of people are, the people that are going to bring you along, hold you accountable, and do all those things. So thank you, Greg, and we'll talk to you next time.
Take care.